pilots we remember as legends, but they didn't start out that way.
Pacific Rim Uprising had all the potential in the world. A bigger cast, new Jaegers, stronger technology, a world that had time to rebuild and evolve after surviving the unimaginable. On paper, this should have been the sequel that took everything we loved about the first Pacific Rim and carried it forward in a way that felt massive and earned. But instead, something strange happened, and believe me, it was strange. Everything got bigger, louder, but somehow it all felt smaller and less connected. The heart that made the first movie larger than life just didn't show up for the premiere. I don't know. But before we get into today's movie, this is part of my 25-day Christmas movie marathon where I'll be dropping a new review every single day this month. And today's movie is Pacific Rim Uprising, a sequel that I really wanted to love, but it ended up being one of the more disappointing sequels I've ever watched. Pacific Rim 2 takes place years after the first film. The kaiju war is over, humanity has recovered, there's a new generation of Jaeger pilots being trained, brand new Jaegers are being manufactured, and a general sense that the world finally has control again. And honestly, that setup has real promise. The world building is there, the time skip, the military academy approach, the evolution of the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps, and the idea that humanity didn't just survive, they grew and became stronger. The stage was set for a sequel about legacy, about the cost of peace, and what comes next when you win the impossible battle. But that emotional weight never really settles. Where the first film treated the Jaegers like towering symbols of unity, sacrifice, and human resilience, Uprising treats them as more like cool action figures and like, oh, look at that robot. The fights are clean and flashy, but they just don't feel like the first movie. They don't feel like they matter. The sense of awe is just gone. It's not that the movie is bad, it's just hollow. It moves fast, it's colorful, it's loud, but the emotional foundation that grounded the first film just isn't there, and without that, everything just feels lighter and kind of just, it doesn't feel like it impacts you as much as the first one. And I might be pretty rude to this movie, so if you love it, I'm sorry. It just did not live up to the original. But with that being said, I don't want to act like the movie has nothing going for it, because there are things it does well. The action is definitely the highlight. The movie keeps your attention during the fight scenes, the Jaegers and the kaiju sounds, the scale, the way the buildings crumble, and the metal collides. All of it. It's done really well. If you came here just wanting to see giant robots beat the hell out of each other and fight kaijus, this movie gives you that. You're gonna be a happy camper. But if you're not here for that, then you might not like this movie because the underlying story just isn't there. Like the writing is just bad. And something that I personally liked is how the Jaeger battles are shot in daylight this time. Unlike the darker tone of the first movie, Uprising goes for clarity. You can see every hit and every movement. It makes the action easier to follow and more visually exciting, which goes back to the first point. If you're here for the action, you'll love it. The world building after the time skip also works. You get a sense of how humanity adjusted, how the Jaeger program changed, and how the next generation was shaped by stories of the past rather than just being in the war. That gives the world momentum instead of being stuck in the same moment. And let's talk about the cast, because the cast really does try to raise the film. John Boyega brings personality and energy to Jake, and Kaylee Spaney, who plays Amara, is easily one of the strongest emotional anchors in the movie. The best moments in this film are between them, the mentor and trainee dynamic, the quiet respect that forms as they pilot together. That's where the movie actually remembers what Pacific Rim was supposed to be about: connection, trust, and two people learning to move as one. Now, I've already mentioned, and not everything is perfect, so I want to talk about some of the things that I just didn't really like. The writing, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all, in my personal opinion. It's not unwatchable, it's just shallow. The movie tries to do too many tones at once. It wants to be funny, it wants to be emotional, it wants to have the high energy battles and epic moments at the same time, and because of that, nothing sticks. I forgot his name, but where that little nerd merges with the kaiju through the drift, it could have been dark and unsettling and layered with psychological weight, but the movie doesn't commit to it. It becomes more of a twist than a theme and the big bad. And honestly, the biggest difference between this movie and the first one is the lack of Guillermo del Toro's influence. In the original, every Jaeger was treated like a monument, every punch had meaning, every battle felt like the world was cracking under the Jaeger's weight. The fights were slow, heavy, and just epic. In Uprising, the fights are quick with flashy robots. They look cool, they just don't feel like anything. The first movie had like real substance. This one has style. It just lost all the stuff that made it great, in my opinion. And you could have a completely different opinion than me on this movie. You could just love it. But I feel like it just didn't live up to the first, and it's a major disappointment. I still remember the first time I watched Pacific Rim. I remember the weight of Idris Elba's speech, the way the world felt huge and impossible and worth fighting for anyway. And it just gave the sense that the character was carrying something heavy and personal, and it was a personal battle for him. He wasn't just fighting the kaijus in the Jaeger just for the fuck of it. And Uprising tries to connect the two movies by making Jake Pentecost the son of Stacker Pentecost, but the emotional connection just doesn't land. The retcon of Stacker having a child doesn't feel earned. It feels like an idea that makes sense logically, but it doesn't really make sense in the movies, because in the first movie he was Mako's mentor, and that was like his pseudo kid because he didn't have any kids. So whenever they flip it on its head and say he had a kid the whole time, Stacker just wasn't the type of person to like not have a relationship with his kid no matter what happened, I feel like. So it just doesn't make sense in my opinion. I think that's probably one of the downsides of this movie. Even though John Boyega kills it, plays a great role, it just always comes back to the writing. It just didn't work. I don't know whose idea this was. But that's also kind of the saddest part. You can see what the filmmakers and the writers were trying to do. You can see the vision. You can see what they intended it to be, but you can also see where they weren't thinking about the broader fan base of the movies. They were just trying to make another franchise. Now, I want to talk about kind of why I think the movie worked, even though it has its flaws. Because it isn't terrible, it's just average. It's just an okay movie. It has the visuals, it has the cast, it has the world building. They set that up in the first movie. It has the scale. It just doesn't have the heart and what made the first movie so great. And without that heart, even the most amazing looking movie would still feel empty. And at the end of the day, the movie is just okay, right? It's watchable. It's fun. It's fun in places, but it's also a reminder that bigger doesn't always mean better. The first movie will always stand as something bold, emotional, and it just has heart. And the sequel just feels like a ripoff of that. They try to remake the original without actually thinking about what they were trying to do. But it's not all lost. We can still get the sequel we want and deserve. Well, not technically a sequel, but we're going to be getting a live action prequel TV show, which will be based before the first movie. I'm not sure about the cast or who's going to be in it. All I know is it's going to be made by Prime Video, which we always know they cook, and Legendary Television. I think that's the people who made the first and second movie. It's going to be produced by Eric Heiserer. I don't know if that's how you say it, but he's the person who made Arrival and Bird Box and Lights Out. It's going to be set before the events of the first movie, and that's kind of all we know. There isn't no new information on that yet. Thank you for watching today's review. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. I'll be dropping a new video every single day this month for my 25-day Christmas movie marathon. Tomorrow's review was a big one, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. And in the meantime, feel free to check out yesterday's video if you haven't already. And as always, stay curious and let's keep the conversation going.